Symbols are a language that can help us understand our past. As the saying goes, a picture says 1,000 words, but which words?
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I bet you're all probably wondering, Sarah, why has your channel name changed? Well, let me tell you. I was really happy with Sarah and Rose. However, it was kind of hard to search up and I didn't feel like a real connection to it. It didn't really mean a lot to me. So I thought, we gotta get a name that actually means something to me and is super unique and easy to search up. Lo and behold, the universe said, I hear you and I will help you. You see, I was sitting at work the other day, just minding my business, in the forbidden section of the library, when I came across a piece of rare magic. And I realized that one of my favorite painters is Caravaggio, and I was like, Caravaggio, Saravaggio. Vibes. So this is it. It's Saravaggio, and I love it. I think it's so unique. I talk about our history. It's art related. It's one of my favorite painters with my name in it. You know, my namesake. So yeah, we're gonna stick with Saravaggio, and it's a great name, I think. So, anyways, now that we have dealt with that, do you like my shirt? It is cold and snowy in Alberta, so I thought I would do a little visual representation with my shirt. Although today was really warm out, it was only -2. Last week it was like -30. So we're going up. So for today's video, I wanted to sort of talk about another art history topic. So art history tea time is coming back. Basically in today's video, I sort of wanted to talk about something that we don't see a lot in art these days, but it was something that was really prevalent in the 16th and 17th centuries, which is the Memento Mori. You're probably like, I don't speak Italian. This is actually Latin for remember that you will die.
She may have passed away, I think.
She passed away? Oh. All right.
Okay, now, if we think about looking at memento moris within sculptures or within paintings, you might think, well, how are they gonna represent? How are they gonna be represented? How will they manifest themselves? Well, generally, it will either come as a skull or a skull with bones or a skull with just a skeleton. So a skeleton is quite common, or just a skull with bones is also quite common. Other ones that we see often is a coffin or an hourglass symbolizing sort of the passage of time. It is sort of dark, however, it is sort of a reminder of the fragility of life and how you should cherish all the moments because, you know, you will die. Yeah, and see, I took a 17th century art class, and in this class, we talked a lot about memento moris. They were kind of everywhere, so that's sort of where the inspiration for this video came from. But yeah, let's dive into it. So now that we know that memento mori translates from Latin to English as remember you have to die, let's take this sort of idea and look at some art regarding the idea of death. Okay, so the first one I want to show you guys and discuss is actually not a painting at all, but it is rather a sculpture. So, thinking about how it will manifest visually, let's look at a sculpture in St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. If you look at the sculpture here, it's kind of terrible, but you can pretty much see a few figures dancing around. Okay, so during this time, sort of representing ideas or sort of virtues was very common. So the 4 figures here we have charity, truth, prudence, and justice. And the primary figure is Alexander, the Pope Alexander. Perfect. So yeah, so right under Alexander, sort of between all the virtues, we have the skeleton who is popping out of the Sicilian drapery, and in his hand, what is he holding? An hourglass. So it really is, in my opinion, sort of the epitome of the idea of the Memento Mori. We see, first of all, death himself, herself, themselves, present, being manifested as a skeleton, but we're also seeing him holding one of, the classic representations of Memento Mori, the hourglass. So it's a really good symbol of visualization of the Memento Mori. I would also like to say that this is Pope Alexander VII's tomb in St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. So it is sort of appropriate to have a Memento Mori in a tomb for someone very important. The statue was created by Gian Lorenzo Bernini between 1671 and 1678. So, yeah. So that's sort of a Memento Mori, like just a classic representation of it within a sculpture. But now we're going to move on to looking at Memento Mori within a painting so that maybe you can have an easier time identifying it when you're looking at paintings. So the painting we're going to be looking at is a 17th century painting. However, often it is referred to as a vanitas painting. So vanitas is Latin for empty or emptiness, futility, worthlessness. So often vanitas paintings sort of portray what sort of the artist, the commissioner, are going to be referring to as earthly goods and pursuits of transient and worthlessness. So we see a lot of the ideas of ephemerality, worthlessness, transience of life. Obviously, the certainty of death is often being shown. This is very common in medieval funerary art, and again, often uses the certainty of death, memento moris. It usually uses rotten fruit to represent decay, bubbles representing the brevity of life, and musical instruments, which also can represent the brevity and ephemeral nature of life and pleasure. Okay, so the painting here is called Vanitas Still Life with a Tulip, Skull, and Hourglass by Philippe de Champagne, 1671, so 17th century. So basically, there are three objects being presented to us, and to the eye initially, it looks just like a simple 17th century still life with three objects on a table: a tulip, a skull, and an hourglass. However, if you understand 17th century iconography and the idea of a vanitas painting, this reads more than simply three objects on a table. First of all, the tulip is going to be a representation of life and pleasure. So from life we move on to the skull, the memento mori, the primary memento mori, let's say, which is death. So life and death. And then you're probably thinking, well, didn't you say earlier that an hourglass is also a visual representation of memento mori and also represents death? I did say that. However, you also have to take into account the context of the painting. So if we already have a skull and we have an hourglass, it's clearly not going to be representing the same idea. In this case, the hourglass is representative of the passage of time. So there we have it, the ephemerality of life, and sort of like the worthlessness is what we're going to be seeing with these three objects. I quite like this painting because it's sort of a good introduction to understanding visual representations within art. So you can see it as just a tulip and some objects on a desk, but with a solid understanding of the 17th century visual culture and sort of the culture in general, you can sort of understand the meaning, the deeper meaning behind this painting and the reason it might have been commissioned. Generally, these were commissioned for funerary purposes, so it could have just been someone could have commissioned it for a funeral or a tomb, like in the case of Pope Alexander VII. Yeah, in this case, I'm not sure why it was commissioned, but we can at this point in this video, we can just assume maybe it was for funerary purposes, or the commissioner had a death in the family and wanted to represent that. So that pretty much concludes sort of my discussion on Memento Mori. So it's not meant to be anything scary or morbid. It's sort of meant to be contemplative, and you should reflect on sort of the certainty of death and the ephemerality of our life, and that we should not take it for granted, and we should focus on living like a pleasurable, fulfilled life. So it's sort of a nice thought if you think about it. It can be scary and daunting since it is being represented with skulls and skeletons, but that's not really the case. And if you guys ever have the chance to visit these two works of art in person, that would be so cool. I haven't, and I would love to. The sculpture is located in the Vatican in Rome, and the still life is in the Tate Museum in London. So yeah, if you ever have the chance, those would be two really cool paintings to see. I mean, they're all going to be really amazing, but yeah, so I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hoped I could teach you a little bit about what a Memento Mori is. And now, if you're ever looking at 17th or 16th century art and you see a skull or an hourglass or a skeleton, you can tell your friends, hey, it's a reminder that we all are gonna die and we should live a fulfilled life. So you can kind of flex that art history back to your friends and tell them all about Memento Moris. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and bye! You've reached the outro. Please like, comment, subscribe. Please subscribe.